like you lost another one.
Well, good day to you, fam. This is B,
And this is D.
bringing you the sole opinions of two everyday Christians.
Yeah, I'm a little excited today about jumping in. We haven't done like really hardly any news since we've been a podcast, and I think it's just way too overdue.
I feel like there's so much to cover. It's almost hard to start into it. But yeah, there's a lot that we got to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, we won't go into the presidency and the election and all that stuff. How Trump won by a landslide. Actually, this time.
Yeah.
But no, we just wanted to kind of hit some of the current topics right now. DOGE is unveiling some pretty big things in the spending department.
Yeah. It's almost all right. As Danny has said in the past, that you'll understand more about our personalities as we go along. But I can't tell you just the absolute elation I feel on a regular basis just with every new development. And it's only been a month, just over a month, Danny, I think, since Trump's been in office. His cabinet has been trickling in here and there. And the amount of, what do we want to say, stuff that they have found and
Just, I mean, honestly, just the amount of work that they've already put in is pretty tremendous.
Yeah. And one of those works is a lot of the findings that they've kind of been uncovering and money that they've been saving or bringing back from wastefulness. One cool thing I'll say, too, is that, especially if this kind of makes anybody upset or triggers anybody, because love them or hate them, they're doing a lot of work. That I appreciate Elon says that along the ways we're moving at breakneck speed and we're going to make mistakes. We can admit to fault. In fact, he said we did one thing. I think the last interview I saw with him is with the USAID, they stopped funding Ebola prevention. And he said, that's kind of a big deal, so we should turn that on pretty quick. They didn't lose any funding. They just stopped it and said, whoops, shouldn't do that, turned it back on. So they're willing to make mistakes, and they're okay with admitting that. I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff is just uncovering the little tiny bit of oversight. And I think it's funny when you work for a company and let's say you're in corporate sales, they give you a credit card. Everything on that credit card is perfectly documented with pictures of receipts and what you can be spending anything on. And if you don't, your hand is going to get slapped and you have to pay that back.
Yeah.
Right. The U.S. government kind of does things different. I don't know why there's no oversight. I mean, a lot of departments, he's finding out that there's hardly really little oversight. And one of the Department of Government Efficiency's posts really put me and your ears up about the active credit card situation in the U.S. government. Nobody talks about, their salaries because, they it's like the feel sorry for me. We get paid $100,000 a year, $150,000 a year.
Right.
But you don't know what kind of things I'm paying for my credit card. I'm paying for all my fuel, or I'm paying for anything and really everything. If I'm going out to lunch or if I'm going out to dinner. So what, your salary just goes to a mortgage at that point. And so the U.S. government currently has 4.6 million active credit card accounts, which processed 90 million unique transactions for $40 billion of spending in the fiscal year of 2024.
That's a lot.
So that's, I mean, okay. I get you've got to give people credit cards for fuel, for those certain kind of things. It just has to happen. It's the easiest way. But at the same time, 40 billion with a B.
It's a lot. And I'm okay. Like you said, I'm okay if some of those things have to be paid because they're public officials. right? They work for us. They are trying to run the country. But what is the problem? Honestly, you can post down in the comments either way if you're for it or against it. What's the problem with saying, "Hey, what'd you spend this on? You know, where is that $90 billion going?" Just if it's legit, that's fine. There's no problem with it. It was gas. We had to take a plane out to, I don't know, from, DC to here. We had an overnight stay because we had a meeting on whatever, urban housing and development or whatever whatever the case might be. That's legit type spending. But if it's not, if it's wasteful, it's like, yeah, we had $1,000 lunch when we were there. We had to spend $20,000 in car rentals or whatever the case. Maybe that's not quite so on the up and up.
Yeah, from what I'm seeing here, the two that are the highest, which one kind of makes sense. Department of Homeland Security. Okay. In the credit card department. They're at like 1.67 billion. Then number 2 is the Department of Justice. Why?
Department of Justice.
That's what I think is hilarious. Department of Justice is at $1.031 billion in credit card spending.
Ooh. Okay, so for what? That's it. I feel like that's a fair question.
Like even Department of Agriculture, they're kind of high, 800 million. But you've got to think, okay, Department of Ag is kind of a big deal, and they have a lot of, you name it, chemicals, fuel, all the stuff that goes into agriculture, right? In the research and all that stuff. Like I understand. We're talking about credit card, not salaries. We're not talking about salaries. We're talking about credit card spending.
Yeah.
So $1 billion in Department of Justice is kind of weird.
That's kind of a lot. I mean, you figure incidentals or per diem, as they say, that makes sense. But if that's a lot. So how many people are using it? Where is it going? And if my wife was, or my kids, or myself, if I was spending, let's say $1,000 a month on whatever, I'm sure my wife would be like, "Can I see what you're buying?"
Right.
If it's legit, it's one thing. But if it's like, I'm buying a bunch of video games and like, hey, I don't think you need to be spending a credit card on all of that.
Are we getting refunds, Brian? So it is upon us with tax refund season, right?
Right.
Now it's this big talk about somebody proposing an idea, all the money that they're already saving, giving that back to the taxpayer. And it's kind of interesting. It's kind of up in the air, but now might be a real thing.
Well, it's definitely perked everybody's interest up because I was trying to find people talking about it. Are we really going to get it? Is it going to be $5,000 a person or a household? Or I don't know. It's quite a lot of buzz. And the thing I like about it, I was, for the most part, opposed to the stimulus checks that we got back in 2020 and then 2021.
Oh, COVID, yeah.
Yeah, mostly because I knew that, well, that's not free money. That's going to come from somewhere, and now we're feeling those effects of, and Trump did one of those. Trump did the first one, and Biden did the next two. At least their administrations did. So I wasn't a big fan, but it wasn't like I didn't take the money. So I'm kind of at fault as well. However, this is different. This is supposed to be a refund based off of savings, a percentage, a dividend, as the DOGE is trying to call it. But I think we found some pretty interesting details from, what is it? Is it Fishback? The guy that's
James Fishback.
Okay.
Yeah, he is CEO of an investment firm in Azoria.
Okay.
Azoria. And he is the one who created a DOGE stimulus check plan.
And then Elon took it to the president.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So President Donald Trump said he's considering a plan to pay out $5,000 stimulus checks to taxpayers in the form of a DOGE dividend during a speech. We're thinking about giving 20% back to the American citizens and 20% down to pay back our debt. So that's kind of a big thing is the debt counter. I don't know if you've seen that, but somebody at my current place of employment, they pulled it up, and you can see each country's like active debt counter, and we're obviously one of the highest.
Oh.
It's blowing my mind because it's been, I mean, a week or two really since all of this has kind of gone down, and just the amount that they're seeing already, and just 20% of that they're able to get a plan for the American taxpayer for $5,000 a piece.
Yeah.
Like already?
Yeah.
Like what? That's a big, to me, that's a big number.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about millions of people, right? So yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Really interesting to me.
You know, the one piece in your research that you found that you were calling out earlier before we started filming is, are we really going to get it, Danny? Is everybody going to get it that is a taxpayer? And I think that's the hard part. From what the notes here on Fishback, what he was saying is that this exclusively goes to households that are net payers of federal income tax. And that means to say is that we have a lower propensity to spend and a higher propensity to save and transfer payments. Yeah, okay. Now, those that are net income payers of federal income tax are not those that received a refund in the previous tax year, which I would be one that received a small refund. I didn't pay federal tax, at the end. I think you were the same, if I'm not mistaken. So therefore, that means you and I may not receive that along with others.
Right. So, at least the research that we've seen, don't get your hopes completely up.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a household that's over that certain number, I'm not sure if they're counting children either.
Yeah.
There is questions and things still need to be worked out.
Yeah.
But it's just what is blowing my mind is just the amount of money that they're finding.
Yes.
And it's not taking somebody a year to uncover this stuff.
No.
And the president, I think he was right. He saw how efficient that Musk runs his companies, and that was one of his grandstand things is he's gonna do the Department of Government Efficiency. We didn't know what that looked like. We didn't know what that was. We were hoping for exactly what he's been doing.
Right.
Because, am I making millions a year and paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes, or I have to, what do they create to do a tax loophole? They have a net worth, but they go to a bank and get a loan. So now with that loan, they don't have to pay taxes on liquid money that they have. This is like million and billionaire talk, because now the bank is like, yeah, you're worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Yeah, we'll give you a loan for $1 million. And then now you have $1 million of liquid money, but you don't have to pay taxes on that liquid money. So like all of that stuff, right? It's just rich people talk to get around the tax code, but we're not one of those people. We're just your average, everyday consumer. We're just trying to make ends meet. But I love as a whole, I love America. One, I'm incredibly blessed to live here. I don't take it for granted at all. And that's why we get on board with so many conservative talk show hosts or, Dan Bongino news. But I mean, DOGE is uncovering things like the schools, Department of Education and schools have spent nearly $200 billion of COVID relief funds. Do you want to see what some of the stuff was?
Yeah, I'd love to hear that.
Okay, obviously they had little oversight or impact on students. That's problem number one.
Okay.
Is okay, if you're spending all this money, what are we doing for the kids, right? We've got to make sure we're now $393,000 went to renting out a Major League Baseball stadium. $86,000 in Caesar's Palace hotel rooms. $60,000 in swimming pool passes.
Hold on, this is for COVID relief?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And even an ice cream truck. All of this money was drawn with COVID relief funds.
I didn't know. Okay. Sure.
It's not taking like, I would say Elon is social skills not too high, right? But he is one of our modern day geniuses, right?
Yeah.
And it's not taking him very long to see all of this stuff. Like, what in the world is going on, guys?
Can I also share another thing that they found, which is not even
No,
Elon.
100%. This is what I love here.
Do you know Lee Zeldin? Do you know who he is?
I see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Lee Zeldin, he's the EPA secretary or director, the secretary of the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. Now he did run for governor in New York this last term after Cuomo was after he stepped down.
But he's Republican, so
he lost. He lost to the Democrat, she's incredibly left, incredibly progressive. It's scary almost. To me, my humble opinion.
Looks like the same thing in Philadelphia too. That governor,
dude, that guy. Chicago, you name it. But this guy, Lee Zeldin, he's kind of always been a spitfire. I liked him, and I was I was like, it stinks that he didn't win in New York, but I understand it's New York. They also don't have voter ID laws. But anyway, did you see that where he found $20 billion in the quote unquote money that Biden said they were throwing gold bars off the Titanic? Let me play that clip for you. You can just hear part of it, and then we'll shorten it here in the thing.
Perfect.
Hi, this is EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin. One of my very top priorities at EPA is to be an excellent steward of your hard-earned tax dollars. There will be zero tolerance of any waste and abuse. An extremely disturbing video circulated 2 months ago featuring a Biden EPA political appointee talking about how they were tossing gold bars off the Titanic, rushing to get billions of your tax dollars out the door before Inauguration Day. The gold bars were tax dollars, and tossing them off the Titanic meant the Biden administration knew they were wasting it.
Mm-hmm.
Following this revelation, during my meetings with members of Congress, I made a very important commitment to them and to the American people.
I'm sure they loved it.
Which I reiterated at my confirmation hearing that if confirmed, I would immediately get a full accounting. Fortunately, my awesome team at EPA has found the gold bars. Shockingly, roughly $20 billion of your tax dollars were parked at an outside financial institution by the Biden EPA. This scheme was the first of its kind in EPA history, and it was purposefully designed to obligate all of the money in a rush job with reduced oversight. Even further, this pot of $20 billion was awarded to just 8 entities that were then responsible for doling out your money to NGOs and others at their discretion with far less transparency. Just under $7 billion was sent to one entity called the Climate United Fund. I'm sure you and I now have some of the same questions. How do these organizations decide how to allocate funding? How much money have they given out so far and to whom? Are there any former Biden EPA staffers who are now working at these entities? Let me make one thing abundantly clear. At this point, there is zero reason to suspect any wrongdoing by the bank. Here's my position as EPA administrator. The financial agent agreement with the bank needs to be instantly terminated, and the bank must immediately return all of the gold bars that the Biden administration tossed off the Titanic.
Get wrecked.
EPA needs to reassume responsibility for all of these funds. We will review every penny that has gone out the door. I will be referring this matter to the Inspector General's office and will work with the Justice Department as well.
There's about a minute left, but you get the point.
Yeah. The biggest picture I'm seeing is like no oversight.
Yeah.
Or if they want something done, they're gonna like cover their eyes and kind of barely peek out of one of those little cracks in your fingers.
Yeah.
If they want something done, that they're gonna do it, and whether it's right or wrong, it's still happening. And the craziest part about even Sean Ryan, I'm gonna say it, SRS, his show, they talk about the spending of this U.S. government that's still going to Al Qaeda.
I remember that episode.
And Bin Laden, last name individuals, hand delivering American cash every week is insanity.
Yeah.
It is crazy. And it's not theirs to give. So,
yeah. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, either Elon or someone else in the cabinet said something to that same effect that corroborated with what the folks that Sean Ryan has had on his show, that yes, they're going to the enemy. They're going to other folks that are other terrorist organizations. We got to stop that. So it's a thing.
Boston Tea Party. You know why that started?
Like, wasn't it was it a 5% tax on tea or something? It wasn't very much.
On tea.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that old America would not have any of this. Like no. When it's almost like, when is enough? And I hope Biden still just continues to, obviously, that's why us as American people were like, yeah, it takes money to run agencies. It takes money to protect us, and it takes our tax dollars to make sure there is police on the ground and policing actually doing their job and are able to do their job, because we've built cities nice enough, and all the sorts, right? Yeah. Us as tax, we're on board. Mm-hmm. But when it's the department of this and that with this and like that, like, it doesn't make any sense when they're talking about 1 billion dollars going to the what? He just like some made up. It sounds like a made up overnight name.
Yeah. Like some environmental protection something.
It didn't make any sense. It sounded like me and you made that up overnight. Like, yeah, we just need to put it in this fund to keep it over there. Mm-hmm. Under what department? Oh, under some protection in the environment, something.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That sounds great. You know, and so there's a huge protest on a tax on tea. Yeah, it's just blowing my mind. Like, when is enough for the American people?
You know, and I almost fear that it'll get worse before it gets better as far as knowledge, because of Elon Musk and the DOGE team. And we were just talking about it a little bit ago, that he's gone. I believe they got access about a week or 2 weeks ago to Social Security. And did you find? I can't remember. Did you say that you found something that what some of the money was going, or some of the spending?
Oh, they found 17 million individuals in the United States alone that were, 17 million such records for people over the age of 100. So supposedly there's 17 million people in the United States that are 100 years and older.
I don't think that's true.
6.5 million number holders aged 112 or older with no death information in the system.
How many?
6.5 million.
Over 112?
Yeah, with no death information.
And you've probably heard by now on some either talk show or some news outlet on YouTube or somewhere where they're talking about this and saying we must apparently have vampires that live in the United States because I think they even found one that was like over 156 years old.
Yeah, I'm not comprehending this. Like,
Yeah.
okay, then it doesn't matter how much you make.
Right.
Me and Brian were talking about this earlier, that even if you don't pay federal income tax, you're still paying into Social Security. They're still taking that portion. That's a whole nother subject. Individuals like Brian and I, we're probably not going to see Social Security, but the boomers before us, they get Social Security. So what does that look like? Right. So in retirement, I don't think individuals like us, unless we really have our financial plan set in pat, we are, we're not going to get any help. It feels like.
No. Well, I'll put this up in a thing, but I just Googled how many people are over 100 years old in the United States, just to see what Google said.
Yeah.
And according to the Boston University Medical Campus, there were approximately, in January of 2023, there were approximately 89,739. So not quite 90,000.
Oh.
And even if we take this from the Pew Research Center, no idea where that's at, from January of 2024, there's an estimate of 101,000 that are over 100, but not in the millions, not even close to 1 million.
Well, it sounds like Department of Treasury is on board with DOGE.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like the government is a whole bunch of old dogs with no new tricks, right?
Right.
Don't ask me questions. I'm not going to do new tricks.
Right.
It's going to stay the same.
It needs to, because that's what I know.
Well, that's weird, because it's staying the same makes people like Nancy Pelosi millionaires when their salary is only $100,000.
Maybe, I think even if it's 200,000.
So it sounds like Trump's cabinet is really on board.
Yeah.
It seems like they just take like $109 billion grant for some building. They couldn't even explain it, but it was a $109 million grant that the previous party was trying to pass.
109 million?
Billion.
Oh, billion.
With a B.
Oof.
Yeah, that's another thing, okay? Billion gets passed around like it's not that big of a number.
Right.
Trump is a billionaire. His net worth is like $2 billion. Everybody's like, ooh, $2 billion. That's not that much money. Bro, a billion is 1,000 million. Like, it's an insane amount of money. If you had 1 million, you would be like, what? Where do I go? Right? Maybe not now. We buy a house, we buy a couple cars, we invest.
Right. Okay.
But let's say 10 million. Mr. Beast just gave away 10 million. There's a funny post. Because it went Mr. Beast games. If you're not familiar, it's a Mr. Beast is Jimmy. I don't even know his last name.
I don't think I do either.
So Jimmy something. Okay,
Yeah.
Is Mr. Beast. He got famous off of YouTube, and then he got famous because he just spent all of his ad revenue, everything, on the next video. Mm-hmm. So he really didn't have that much money at all until probably now. Mm-hmm. But he got a whole bunch of, he got a show deal with Amazon.
Yep, it's on Prime.
So he got a show deal with Amazon, and he called it the Beast Games. And it's like some of it's like flip a coin, some of it is like, actual strategy games, some of it's memorization, like it's just random tests, right? And it went from 1,000 people to one winner.
Well, it's technically started with 2,000 on YouTube, and then when they started in Prime, it was 1,000, and then went 500, and then on down.
Okay, so, anyways, so I guess the prize money originally was $5 million, and I read that it went to $10 million.
Yeah.
And then from 10 million, there was a post that said the winner of Beast Games only got $5.3 million in winnings, which is right. It's crazy. He's having to pay $4.7 million in taxes.
It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. because it's prize money.
Mhm.
I guess it's probably same as getting bonus.
Yeah, right.
So, with that said, mind you, this is Jimmy's money.
Yeah.
Jimmy then posts right underneath that and said, "Only?" ? Like $5.3 million is not just some
dude, no.
like 50,000
for you
right?
and I, and for most of us out there, that's kind of life-changing money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
big time.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was pretty funny. Jimmy, if you ever see this, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
You actually, he really puts a ton of money back into
man.
people's lives.
Yeah, he does.
Like whether they be random or they applied to be on whatever show or whatever game or whatever. But
So
yeah, I mean,
we're not necessarily plugging for Jimmy and for Mr. Beast, but even all of his philanthropy videos, it's pretty cool how he's got a lot of eye surgeries for people in developing countries, third world nations that can't get that type of surgery, or prosthetic legs, or housing, or wells, and all this stuff.
I remember, did the U.S. government or what government got angry at him when he went over there and drilled 100 wells?
I don't know.
It was in Africa, I thought.
And
country. I don't remember what government got angry at him. I think it was the African government, because they're like, bro, now you're showing that we can't do this, which we could have done this the whole time. Now you're doing it. And Jimmy's like, bro, I'm trying to make lives better. And if you're not going to do it, then I'll do it.
What have you done for God lately?
Yeah. Like, I was like, oh, I like this guy. That was like one of his first like controversial things that he did, because he just went over there and started drilling wells.
Yeah.
And there's water, but it takes money and the government's not doing it.
Yeah.
So
so he made him look bad and they didn't like that.
Yeah.
That sounds like a government.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah.
He's doing a lot with the money. Oh, on that okay, hold on. So on that credit card thing. $4.6 million active credit card accounts for the government, right? Yesterday there was a credit card update.
Oh.
A pilot program across 14 civilian agencies to audit unused, unneeded P cards is 700,000 accounts with $30 billion of spend in 24. After 8 days, 24,000 cards have been deactivated, which will likely by the end of the week, which will likely double by the end of the week.
Wow.
So, yeah, they're already killing it.
Now, what I don't understand is, what are government P cards? Government purchase cards, the preferred procurement and payment method for micro purchases that are $10,000 and below of goods and services. That's from the CISA.gov website.
Yeah, so they're probably looking at all this going, why this fancy restaurant? Why that fancy restaurant? Why that fancy hotel? Why all the stuff, right?
Right. And it's interesting, if you think about it this way, every year, my corporation, my company that I work for full time, we have to take training when it comes to conflict of interests. And one of those conflict of interests is we cannot take a gift from anyone that is like a third party or from the government or anything like that, because it could show that we're playing favorites. We also can't take them out to eat or do something else without either approval, especially if it's like a government agency or if it's a third party. If I think there's rules, like you can, under $100 you can do that, but if you're going to take one or two people out, that's almost $100 plus yourself. But what oversight do they have?
Right. None. And I'll show it to you right here.
Oh. U.S.
tax dollars were going to be spent on the following items. All now have been canceled. Listen to the names of some of these things and the amounts. Okay, we're just talking about how life-changing $5 million would be, right? Well, these programs have now been canceled, and it's $60 million for Indigenous peoples and Afro-Colombian empowerment.
What?
Yeah, I'm really curious to see if they're actually empowering people with this.
Yeah.
74 million for inclusive justice
Oh,
in Colombia. In Colombia.
yeah. Because also all that stuff we care about as Americans, right? I mean, I'm not saying that we don't care about, needs of other countries, because we do. We don't want necessarily people to suffer. However,
I'm all for this next one too.
oh, cool. Okay.
Primary literacy in Kenya.
Okay.
Guess the amount for primary literacy.
Well, if they spent 70 million on inclusiveness, it's got to be 100 million.
It's not quite 100, but it's $79 million for primary literacy. Are we taking like literacy books over there and maybe a handful of teachers, and you're spending $79 million?
I don't know if I believe that. It all went to that,
and it's a year. This is budgeted every year, and this is the same stuff I'm talking about that we're sending to Bin Laden. There's 2 or 3 with that last name that we're sending millions every week over there.
So we're
not now.
Yeah, not now.
We're.
So I'm hard pressed to believe that some of that didn't go to the government in Kenya or some other entity out there.
Correct.
But it's labeled as, hey, we need to get these young people. And I'm all for literacy.
Me too.
But almost $80 million?
No. 37 million for female empowerment in Colombia.
Oh, Lord, have mercy.
Like, what do you do with that money? It's so general. Female empowerment?
Yeah.
So what are you doing for females in Colombia? I want to know.
Yeah.
Like, this is the stuff that taxpayers want to know. Like, okay, like, we're all for 99% of us love people. We're all for helping other countries,
Sure.
but here we are drowning in debt. But, it's no big deal. Just keep printing money.
Drowning in debt and inflation. Young people today have a hard time if they can even get a place to live, at least out here in where we live in like the West.
I just heard a new study yesterday.
Okay.
The average age to buy a house last year was 46 years old. The average age now is like 50 or 51.
Oh my word.
So that number just keeps going up because
You can't afford it.
no one can.
Yeah. I mean, I don't do that bad financially as far as, I'm not a millionaire by any stretch of the means. I'm not really even 100,000-aire, Danny. But the thing is, I'm barely like 1,000-aire at this point. But I don't do bad financially. I make a decent wage. And if I were to buy the house I'm in today, I couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
I couldn't pay that payment and live comfortable. I mean, I could do it, I guess, if we ate beans and rice and beans. Thanks, Brother Dave Ramsey. But I couldn't do it.
Yeah. Me and my wife, we were looking at, just for giggles, we were looking at, what it looks like to buy a house. And right now,
Oh man.
Your average mortgage payment is going to be about $2,400 to $2,600
On how
a
big
month.
of how big of a house?
The one that we saw was 1,600 square feet, 1,650.
That's
It's a
about
new
this.
build.
It's about this house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
1,650 new build.
New build. Okay, well at least it's new.
2,600 a month.
3-bedroom, 2-bath, 4-bedroom, 2-bath,
3-bedroom too.
3-bedroom,
Yeah.
2. Goodness, so your boys would have to share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's just mind blowing.
And to put that in perspective, so that's probably about a $450,000 house, right?
Yeah, it's like 480.
480. Okay. So put that in perspective, y'all.
And that was with 15 down. Sorry. That was only
that's
with 15.
Only 15,000 down.
Yeah.
Right, because you have that. So to just put it in a quick perspective, when my wife and I got married, which was 20 years ago, 21 years ago here in August, this up and coming August. In 2005, we bought our first house. We bought it for $112,000. in Nampa. I'm just calling it out. And our payment at that point was, I think, $1,100 because interest was like 7.5%, and that was good back in 2005. But the housing cost, it was a decent house if you recall that one. It was probably what, 1,300 square feet, nothing too big, 1,200 square feet. But it had a nice backyard, had a gazebo, had a shed. It was fairly updated for that time. And it was $112,000. That same house now is over $3.
Oh, easy.
$350.
It's probably like $380.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
Pretty much the cheapest houses. Was that 2 or 3 bedroom?
I was 3-bedroom, small bedrooms, but the downstairs had small bedrooms.
Yeah, 3 bedroom, 2 bath.
Mm-hmm.
Small.
living room, small
You're
kitchen.
insanely hard pressed to find anything in this area below 4.
That's
400,000.
Man, it's wild.
Yeah, it's wild. When I was in high school, somebody had a $500,000 house. We're like, dude, they are rich.
Yeah,
Like literally rich. They $500,000. That's insane.
mm-hmm.
Now it's like your median home price. It's sad.
Yeah.
Yet wages still have not.
No.
I mean, nothing's really balancing.
No. I don't even know if we want to get into some of the other stuff that we've been noticing in
Yeah,
politics.
it's all rabbit holes, fam. It really is. Don't get down. Don't get too burdened with life.
No.
That's why we are so committed in doing the work of God and trying to serve God the best we can, because we're looking at the end goal,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the end goal is us, hopefully one day where we can make heaven our home.
Yeah. And think about this is what Danny just said is so true, and we take comfort in that, because Danny and I, we don't have all of our stuff together. We're not like just sitting on piles of cash and we're comfortable in every aspect of our life. We still have the everyday struggle, just like y'all. That's why we're everyday Christians, right? But we do have our faith in God, and that He watches out for us, and that He has our best interests at heart.
Don't get downtrodden. Keep your head up. Again, we're always here. Message us. Get a hold of us. Don't forget either. Okay. We did talk a little news today. But don't forget about our giveaways.
Oh.
We've got a some things that are uncovering for our Benchmade giveaway, but we are giving away a 500 subscriber. One of you lucky fam members are going to get a nice Streamlight, a nice rechargeable Streamlight. It'll be posted quickly on an official giveaway, I guess, on YouTube, and then our Patreon.
And we'll put it up on our Patreon too.
Our Patreon, we are going to be giving away a nice Benchmade to one of you lucky individuals that are going to be one of our Patreon members, supporting us through this, so we can get better. But yeah, we're gonna use quite a bit of those funds to get a good Benchmade knife to one of those Patreon members.
Now we do need to get to that 500 subscriber, so help us share the word, get us out there, like, subscribe, comment. That definitely helps the channel, and as soon as we get there, we'll definitely share that with you, and somebody's gonna win it.
Yes, sir. Remember, leftist tears are the best tears. And this coffee was amazing. I'm not doing the sponsor of Black Rifle, but you know what? Their coffee is very, very good.
It is very good.
Thank you all who support us so far through this journey. Thank you for the service, men and women that have served our country. And once again, it wraps up another week.
Yeah, we love you, fam.
God bless.